Hello, everybody. So it's Argent. I'm here, of course, with my kitty Raine. So people have been asking me to do a Raine video. So I figured I'd do one. As kind of a topic for this vlog, I figured maybe we'll just talk about COVID in retrospect. Was it as bad as I thought it was going to be? Did we do the right thing as a society? That sort of thing. So, as you probably remember, heading into all of this, Serp and I were pretty black-pilled. We both thought that it was happening. This was the big one. I don't know if we thought like tens of millions of people were going to die, but the death toll was going to be really high, and it was going to cause like the collapse of some countries. And I think it's very hard to evaluate whether we were right or wrong, because a lot of countries in the world eventually fairly quickly took appropriate steps. And I mean, here's the thing, and it's kind of a chicken and egg problem when we're talking about COVID. The first thing is, I guess the chicken in this case is that it doesn't seem like there was that many actual deaths relative to what they were predicting, and B, the lockdowns were really brutal. So I think the thing to kind of keep in mind is the reason that there wasn't more deaths from COVID is probably due to how bad the lockdowns were. So when you're kind of looking at it, the often kind of drastic measures we went to prevent the spread of this disease meant that the spread of the disease was kind of contained, at least to some extent. So because of that, when you kind of look at the lockdown, you're like, oh, well, there's these lockdowns and it shut the economy down, but no one died. But I think you can make the case that more people didn't die because of the actual lockdowns. And if we hadn't have done that stuff, we hadn't have done like all the hand washing and the masks and that sort of thing, then it would have been as bad as people said it was going to be. So it's a very hard thing to evaluate. So when people ask me, Argent, did you think that the all the stuff was necessary? Do you think you overestimated or whatever? It's very hard to say, because I don't know if I necessarily could have predicted how dramatically some countries would react. I will say, though, that regardless of whether the reaction was justified or not, that I would say this is one of the greatest examples of mass gaslighting in history. Just in terms of all the nonsense we were told about this virus, like kind of how contagious it is. I don't really believe any of the official numbers, particularly like from China. How we were expected to believe that like China had a bunch of days where there was pretty much nobody who got sick. There was no additional illnesses or that sort of thing. Here, Raine, show the audience your face. Arr, meow. Oh, here. Oh. It's okay. She's just play fighting. She's not really biting me very hard. Here, Raine. Watch. But yeah, there was a lot of gaslighting. In particular, I think the biggest one was with regards to masks, because they were saying, oh, masks don't do anything. If you wear a mask, you're crazy. There was obviously the Surgeon General tweet, seriously, people, masks aren't an effective way of preventing the spread of COVID-19 for the general population. You shouldn't wear a mask. You shouldn't wear one. It's only for medical professionals. Anybody else who wears a mask, it doesn't help them. But when medical professionals wear one, it does help them. So there was that. There was the whole thing with just regarding the Black Lives Matter and the protests and that sort of thing. Because, like, obviously, they were saying, oh, it's no one's getting sick. Everyone's social distancing and wearing masks at the protests. The protests are awesome. Racism is actually the big public health issue that needs to be dealt with, not COVID. COVID is secondary to racism, and them protesting actually is reducing the number. So there's that aspect to it. So I think I would kind of summarize a lot of this as being the government lied when it didn't need to, and it kind of told the truth when it didn't need to. And it kind of led to, I think, an environment where it's very hard to really know what should have been done. I think overall in Canada, the response was pretty good. The various provinces and levels of government kind of really came together and agreed upon kind of a common, I don't know how to call it, a common strategy for dealing with it. There's like the province and the different provinces and the federal government adopted a similar set of standards. So because of that, you were able to, oh, that kind of hurts. Stop that. Stop that. So because of that, the, sorry, Raine, your biting got me all confused as to like what's even going on, like what is reality, that sort of thing. But yeah, they all got on board. America, I think, had the worst response of any developed country, because I think America either could have just gone for herd immunity and just said that whoever dies, we'll do our best, but we aren't going to shut the economy down, we aren't going to screw the country over, we're just going to get it done. And then once it's done, we won't have to worry about it anymore. But America didn't do that, and it didn't do like the harsh lockdown and quarantines that a lot of other countries did. So because of that, look at the camera, girl. Look at the camera. So because of that, you had the issue with a lot of states ruined their economies by locking everything down, whereas like the other half of states didn't. And whenever there was some success, they immediately like took everything off. So you basically kind of had this endless stream of, it was just a shit show. And it's still a shit show. And the inability to commit to either course of action, I feel kind of made it so that America had the worst of both worlds. So I think the US in particular did a really bad job. Brazil at least did basically the same thing in terms of going for herd immunity. But Brazil didn't, on the other hand, didn't try to shut their economy down and kind of destroy it. I don't think Brazil could have actually realistically done anything. I don't think the state there has enough power or enough resources to do a proper lockdown. So that was probably the right decision. And it is kind of funny to hear Bolsonaro calling people pussies for getting COVID. So I guess kind of the other question is, if or if not this was a, I don't know if conspiracy is the right term, but blown up by the media and the government, was it kind of taken advantage of? And I'd say, yeah, it probably was pretty heavily taken advantage of, because one of the core components of neoliberalism is to not remove or add regulation, but to try to make the economy less competitive. So I think a lot of companies large companies are taking this as an opportunity to lobby the federal governments or the state governments, I guess in my case, provincial government, to, there you go, you get a good look at Raine's face. Are you going to let me pet you now? Or are you going to bite me and be a bad girl? Is to implement certain restrictions, because like it's been very much there's been all kinds of like buyouts and exemptions. I know Serp told me in his state like a bunch of stuff was deemed essential based on like that wasn't essential based on just how much lobbying dollars they had. And I feel like in a lot of cases companies are probably lobbying for the stuff to go on for longer, because they can survive. A lot of the big companies know they'll either get bailed out or they have the cash reserves to survive an extended lockdown or like just a bunch of additional cleaning procedures or other restrictions that smaller companies can't. So it's a way of decreasing competitiveness. It's a way of driving potential competitors and other companies out of the business and making it more advantageous for the the larger companies. I'm sure Disney will probably eventually get a bailout. If you're really big, then like you can just crash the economy and the government will do something to prevent your destruction, and there'll probably be no real terms or conditions attached to it. So that's kind of an advantage. So I think it is being used as a tool for that. And I don't know, are we going to have a second wave? Are we going to have is it going to get mutated? Are we going to have a vaccine sometime? I don't really know, to be honest. It's kind of an open question at this point. Now, I just want to show you a couple things on Raine. Raine, stop. Okay. If you look at Raine's eyes when she just holds still in her biting, she has dual colored eyes. I think it's called dichromia. So if you look at her eyes, they're green, but there's like a blue circle in them. Ow, it's like a separate iris, I think it's called, or something. That's kind of interesting. I think she is starting to really kind of come into her Angora-ness. Because Raine's a half Angora. So, ow. Stop that. So her tail, I think, is getting pretty Angora-ish. It's getting pretty fluffy. That's kind of what Angoras are known for, is very, like, fluffy, heavy tails. I mean, she's biting me. That didn't really hurt that much. I have been clipping her claws pretty regularly, and that's kind of critical. At least not really in Canada. We don't do declawing anymore. I know my parents' cat, which they got about 20 years ago, they did declaw because it was a lot more common back then. But that's just not really something that happens now. Ow! Stop biting me! There, chase that around, you little demon. But, yeah, as you can see, though, she hasn't really gotten... I think she's gotten bigger, but... Let me see if I can... I've posted some pictures of her from time to time. But Raine is a very long cat. I don't know if you know, there's that old meme, long cat is long. Raine is a very long, slim cat. Ow! Stop that. She's not very, like, girth. She's not a thick cat. She's a thin cat. She's, let's see if I can get her to jump. Come on, Raine. Show the audience how tall you are. Yeah, there we go. There's kind of an idea. As you can see, she's very long and slim. And once again, I think that's very much an Angora trait. So, why am I obsessed with her being an Angora? Because ever since I saw, like, James Bond movies, I've always kind of wanted an Angora. If Blofeld's cat, at least in some of the movies, was not an Angora but a Persian, don't tell me. But I think it was an Angora and you only live twice, but it was a Persian in the other instances. But I've always wanted one so I can pet her and pet my cat and say, and like pretend I'm an evil genius or something like that. So yeah, that's my thoughts on COVID, but really it's more about Raine. As always, when I'm dealing with her, I just want to remind you, black and white cat lives matter. I'm worried about her because I guess you could say she's a mulatto cat because she's half black, half white. And I don't know if there's going to be a place for her in woke America. I mean, I guess, like, if I start calling myself a fur daddy, that'll help because that'll make me, like, a weirdo. Well, more of a weirdo than I already am, but, yeah. So, Raine, do you want to say goodbye to the audience? Okay, I think that's probably about as close to a wave as we're going to get out of her. Before she jumps and bites me. Ow, stop that. That really hurts. There we go, you get an idea of how long she is. Anyways, God bless everyone. Black and white cat lives matter. Ow, stop it.